This is Dr. Brandon Beals. I am the lead and founding pastor of Venture Church in the Seattle area.
My name is Tony. I pastor Venture Church Seattle.
With this podcast, we talk about things that pastors always want to talk about but are afraid to.
I'm so glad you're with us today. Welcome to Pastors Unfiltered.
Hey, everybody. This is Pastor Brandon. I'm going solo today. Wasn't planning on being here today, but due to some unfortunate circumstances, I ended up being here, which means we get to do an extra podcast, but you get me solo without my incredible co-host, Tony. And the hard part without Tony is I acknowledge that Tony's the talent on the podcast. I'm only like the sideshow amusement. It's all about Tony. We're going to miss him. But I have some fun things I want to talk to you about today. I do want to apologize up front. We have a massive expansion going on at our Mill Creek facility. You're going to hear a lot of pounding and hammering. We had staff meeting today. It was crazy trying to do staff meeting with all of these things. But before I dive into what I want to talk to you about, and I'm just going to tell you up front, I'm going to tell you the story of what happened with Di. Everyone is asking me. I've gotten honestly hundreds of text messages, phone calls, messages on my social media accounts asking specifically what happened to Di, how is Di doing? And that's what we're going to talk about today. But beforehand, I want to talk just about some basic things. I want to thank whoever sent me this Buc-ee's cup in the mail. I still have yet to go to Buc-ee's. I'm supposed to go to Dallas next week for a conference. We'll see if that ends up happening. And that will be my first time ever going to Buc-ee's. So I do thank you for whoever sent me that. This is a shout out to one of my good friends, Priscilla Bohr. I was hanging out with John and Priscilla, who are dear friends of mine. They're amazing church planners in Las Vegas. They've been friends since my Modesto days when they were interns of mine back then. And so I don't know, what do we put that on? 25 years I've known John and Priscilla. Love them, love their kids. But Priscilla knows that I have unique taste in TV shows. So she asked me, so let me describe my taste in TV shows. Pretty much I relate to everything my daughter likes. So if my daughter likes it, odds are I like it too. So Priscilla, knowing that, asked me if I had ever seen, and I'm embarrassed by the name of the show to admit this, but it's a show on Amazon. It's called The Summer I Turned Pretty. Honestly, never seen an episode of that show ever, had no interest in it, just didn't like the title. None of the characters seemed interesting. But Priscilla asked me if I would at least watch a couple episodes. So I was on vacation, had a bunch of plane rides, so I downloaded season 1 and season 2 of The Summer I Turned Pretty. And I got to be honest, I'm so hooked on that TV show. I think Conrad is a little bit too mopey, so I'm not a big Conrad fan. The character that plays, the actor that plays Jeremiah in real life, he is actually a really strong Christian. I don't love the character he plays on the TV show, but because he's a Christian in his actual life, I tend to like him. But I will be honest, episode 4 of season 2, watched it on an airplane, literally was crying like a baby in that episode. It was the funeral episode. Conrad gets up, plays a special song for his mom. I cried like a baby. So that's just telling Priscilla, hey, Priscilla, you might think I don't listen to you, but this proves that I do. Next thing I want to talk about is this season of Big Brother. I love Big Brother, love reality TV shows, really pumped for Survivor 50 and had been catching up on previous seasons of Survivor that I'd missed. Survivor 49 starts in the next couple weeks, and I've heard the rumors are, so like the Twitter rumors, it's an amazing season. They already had to boot off two cast members before the season even started for various different reasons. So there's all kinds of drama leading into it. It's supposed to be a really good season. And two of the cast members from season 49 ended up being invited to season 50, this like epic legends all-star season to celebrate Survivor. So, it's got to be good if two of those contestants are on there. All that to say, to kill time, I hadn't watched Big Brother probably in 3 to 4 years, but got into this season when Rachel Riley came back, famous Rachel from Big Brother came back. She was the only returning contestant and pretty much had Big Brother fans. We were mesmerized because she was lapping all of these newbies. I mean, they were terrible, and they are terrible. Like anybody other than Rachel on the show, they're terrible competitors. They don't understand the game of Big Brother. But in a weird, crazy twist that production made with Big Brother, they had an episode where somebody got eliminated from Big Brother without actually getting evicted from the house, and that ended up being Rachel Riley. And for those of you that are Big Brother fans, you just found out about this last night. For those of us that watch the live feeds, which I'm embarrassed to say, it's mindless fodder in the background of doing things to watch Big Brother live feeds. So we all knew about this last week, but the uproar amongst former Big Brother contestants for how this played out, all the fans have been going crazy that not only would somebody be removed from the house without being evicted, but that it was Rachel, and Rachel was the only interesting thing about this particular season. So there's all these rumors about what's going to happen, what will play it out. But I just shout out to Big Brother. Love Big Brother. It's very interesting. If you want some mindless drivel in the summer, I do encourage you to check out Big Brother. Can't move forward without mentioning the Mariners. Once again, Mariners have a terrible road trip. All the Mariner fans in Seattle, we were depressed. We were jumping off the train. They do win the last 2 games of the road trip in Atlanta, which were pretty big. I mean, scored 18 runs, 1 game. We would have rather they spread out those 18 runs, maybe over 4 or 5 games, and they would have ended up winning, but they didn't. I went to the Monday night game. So the first game back in Seattle against St. Louis, was there with Kyle Peacock, greatest softball coach in the state of Washington, 2-time high school state champion softball coach. I was there with Kyle, so I love going to games with him. He's a huge Mariner fan, and we were shocked. So the Mariners, they're still on the verge of making the playoffs. They're really doing a push to win the AL West, and they were playing the St. Louis Cardinals, a National League team they would normally never play, at T-Mobile. We expected the place to be packed, and it was empty, totally empty. I don't get it. I really don't get it. That tells you how depressed and fair weather Seattle sports fans are. They lose a few series on the road. They're out, not going to any games anymore. Well, they won that game. Then they won last night. So now the Mariners are 1 game out of first place. And I'm going to bet, we're recording this on a Wednesday. I'm going to bet tonight, place is packed. Typical Seattle fans. I want to pick on, I am a Seattle sports fan. I'm a long-suffering Seattle sports fan. Miss the Sonics. I still refuse to watch the NBA because the Sonics left. I'm waiting patiently for the Sonics to come back. Long-suffering Mariner fan. Long-suffering UW fan. I like the Seahawks. Okay, the Seahawks are my second favorite NFL team. My favorite NFL team, of course, is the Raiders. And I just want to mention that the Raiders fleeced the Seahawks in a trade in the offseason to get the Seahawks starting quarterback. Now, I know a lot of Seahawk fans hate Geno Wilson. A lot of Seahawk fans hated Russell Wilson. They hated Geno Smith. A lot of Seahawk fans have hated Russell Wilson. Seahawk fans hated Mass Hasselbeck. Seahawk fans hated Dave Craig. Seahawk fans always hate their quarterback. So there's nothing new about that. Like we like the quarterback when he's doing amazing, and the rest of the time we're out on the quarterback. So for all of you out there thinking Geno Smith is trash, we couldn't stand him, same thing you said about Russell Wilson, same thing you said about Dave Craig, same thing you said about Matt Hasselbeck. Why do I mention that? Because I watched the Seahawks before Sean Alexander was the running back. So I'm a long time interested person in the Seahawks, not just somebody that jumped on the bandwagon in the last 10 years. So you always hate your quarterback. You got fleeced. Geno Smith is way better than Sam Darnold. As a Raider fan, all of us in Raider Nation, we were so pumped about the Geno Smith trade for one major reason. We were scared to death they were going to sign Sam Darnold in the offseason. Now, not only am I an NFL fan, but I am an avid college football fan. I love Husky football. Like I bleed purple. I can talk about the Huskies in any setting, anywhere. It's why my kids went there. I've had season tickets for the Huskies. We're going on year 17 of season tickets. My seats are amazing. Love it. Love going to all the games. I proudly wear purple throughout Husky season. But I say all that to say, I watched Sam Darnold play a lot while he was in college. He was a quarterback for USC. Sam Darnold set the USC record 2 years in a row for fumbles in a season. He is a quarterback who gets hit and drops the ball. Occasionally, he'll throw a nice pass. Occasionally, he'll do a nice come from behind victory. But for the most part, he fumbles. So watching the Seahawks game on Sunday and watching them lose the game because the Seahawks are on the 10-yard line, Sam Darnold goes back to pass and fumbles. Now, when I made fun of him, all my friends are like, the offensive tackle got shoved into him. He's supposed to hold on to the ball. Quarterbacks aren't supposed to fumble. It's one of the number one things they teach you when you start playing football in the 89er league as an 8-year-old. Hold on to the football. Sam Darnold fumbles. I tried telling you, you didn't listen to me. Now you're trying to make excuses for him. He fumbled. Seahawks lose. By the way, Geno Smith, unbelievable. On the road, stormy, rainy weather in New England, 10 a.m. game, and almost sets a Raider record for most yards thrown in a game. In fact, Derek Carr only had one game in his entire Raider career where he threw for more yards than Geno Smith just did. First game of the season. Now, I don't think Geno's the answer long-term for the Raiders. I do think he'll get the Raiders to 500. I also think that in 2 years, the Raiders will end up getting a different quarterback. But remember, I said it here. Again, love you, Seahawks fans. Not meaning to make fun of you, but you troll me about my Raider love, I troll you about your Seahawk love. All right. Want to talk to you about this past week. This is actually the purpose of the podcast. On Saturday, my wife went hiking with her mom. I had planned that this following week, I was leaving on Wednesday to go to Green Bay. I had the opportunity to share at a Green Bay Packers chapel. And then I was going to go to the game, and I was taking Johnny White, our youth pastor, who is an enormous Green Bay fan. So this was like his pastor's appreciation present from me. I am supposed to be back in town on Friday. Then I preach on Sunday. Then I leave Sunday night with a guy in our church, Ty Hutton. We're flying to Vegas to go to the Raiders opening game, the Monday night game. We fly back Tuesday. I fly out again. I know this is crazy. I fly out again Wednesday to go to a pastor's conference in Dallas. And then I was back on Friday. So that was this crazy travel over an 8-day period of time. that I had planned, and this has been planned for months, that I would have these 2 trips because these speaking engagements that I was invited to speak at. So my wife knew this. We're gearing up for this. She traveled a lot in July and traveled a lot in August because we knew as a family I'd be traveling in September. All this to say, my wife goes hiking, is hiking back, and trips over a route. It was a little bit more complicated than that when I actually heard the actual story from her mother-in-law. From my mother-in-law, she was hiking with my mother-in-law, Patty, and she was kind of climbing down this very difficult part of the hike and hooked her foot, fell forward. She had poles attached to her hands, the hiking poles, and the hiking pole, she went out to catch herself and kind of snapped, hit the ground, snapped her wrist, her right wrist, landed on her knee, thrashed her knee. What ended up happening, they're about 3 miles still on the hiking back, and we come to find out that Di broke her right wrist in 8 different places. There were 3 different complete breaks on her wrist, and her wrist, I don't know if you're watching me on this video or not, was literally dislocated and hanging down like this. So that was her wrist. Immediately begins to swell up. And then at the same time, she didn't know this at the time. She just knew that her knee was hurt. She broke her kneecap in 2 places. So she's 3 miles in. She fortunately had a Garmin, and there is a button on the Garmin that you can press, and it sends an SOS signal. But because Di's hand was broken, she wasn't able to open up and figure out the Garmin, so she gave it to my mother-in-law. And my mother-in-law, love her to death. Patty is absolutely amazing. Probably not the most savvy technological person. Patty could not, for the life of her, figure out this Garmin thing. So she kept trying to press it, could not get the SOS button to work. So eventually they concluded they got to hike Di out. So they hiked down this very uneven terrain over logs that are 2 feet high, down rocks. She has a broken left knee, 8 breaks in her arm. And I'm putting together the story that I heard from Di and the story that I've now heard from Patty, that they would take a couple steps and Di was screaming the whole time, like screaming in agony and pain. Eventually, a mom and her 2 sons were hiking the same trail and had asked Di, "How are you doing?" And Di was like, "I don't want to talk. I just want to get off this mountain." And so they kind of hiked past. But about 20 minutes later, they hiked back down again. And my mother-in-law looks at them and says, "Why are you guys here?" And they said, "We've heard her screaming for the last hour, and we had to do something." So that just tells you, for as tough as my wife is, and she is very tough, was in so much pain every step. She was screaming. To my mother-in-law, she said it was very traumatizing. So they helped Di hike out the next 3 miles. They also got the Garmin working. And so the goal was that there be an aid car waiting for Di at the trailhead. While all this is going on, Garmin calls me 3 times. I had been doing yard work. I was working out, and then I was taking a shower. And I kept getting this weird phone call from just a number that I didn't recognize. And you guys know, how often do you get phone calls from numbers you don't recognize? All the time. You just ignore them. So I'm doing what I'm supposed to. I'm just ignoring those calls. And I happen to notice that I got left a voicemail. And in fact, I'm going to see if I have the voicemail, because if I do, I'm going to play it for you. Anyways, Garmin called and said, "You were left as an SOS on someone's Garmin, and we wanted to let you know that you need to call us." So I immediately call Garmin, and Garmin says, "We got an SOS from a Diana Beals Garmin. In fact, we got 2 of them, and we were told that someone broke their wrist." So I asked Garmin, where is my wife? Because I didn't even know where she was hiking. When your wife goes hiking as much as mine, it's all like, it's called like white noise in the background. I'm not like, she tells me where she's going, but she goes somewhere different every week. I can't keep track of it one day to the next. So I didn't have a clue where she was. They didn't know either. Garmin. The reason she has a Garmin is if she gets into, they didn't know where she was. So I call my father-in-law, because Patty, again, was hiking with her. Ask Mike. I go, Mike, do you know where they were hiking? And he goes, I never know where Patty's going hiking. She's always going hiking every week. And same thing that I had said. So I start trying to hack into different things, figure out where Di's at. My father-in-law hacks into my mother-in-law's computer because she always researches where she's going to hike to see where she was going. And we figured out that they were somewhere around Index. So I know there's a bunch of trails up there, but I wasn't going to sit at home. I didn't know. So hopped in my car and I started driving to Index and just about ready to leave Uncle Tio. And I get a phone call from my mother-in-law finally. So apparently the accident happened at 1:30 and I am now hearing from Patty at 3:30. So this is 2 hours later. And Mike and I had assumed it was Patty that had gotten injured, but it was actually Di. And she's like, and Patty was cutting in and out because that's the way cell phones are. And she said, Di broke her wrist and she also hurt her knee. We don't know what happened. An aid car picked her up. We're going to Providence, Monroe. We'll meet you there. So drive over to the hospital. This is true. I got there 10 minutes before Di did. So now I'm watching her on the Find Friends app and I can see the aid car going very slowly, which I can't figure out why. I came to find out later. And my mother-in-law arrives first and she goes, okay, the only thing Di said she wanted was a picture of her in the aid car. So I grab my phone and I'm taking a picture of Di, which some of you have seen me post online, right as she's getting out of the aid car. My wife yells at me and says, that's what you're going to do first? Take my picture, not ask me how I'm doing? I knew this was going to be a rough 5 hours. She ends up in the hospital for 4 or 5 hours in Monroe. They had to straighten out her arm, found out that her arm was broken. They didn't know how bad it was. We didn't find out how bad it was until yesterday. They also found out that she had broken her knee. In the words of the doctor, she kept asking for clarification. Okay, you had to hike out 3 miles on this knee. And Di's like, yeah, I didn't have an option. Now Di's kind of drugged up, so doesn't have as much pain. She's pretty sore, but she can communicate. And the doctor pulls me aside afterwards, and he was like, I don't swear, so I'm not going to say exactly what the doctor said, but you can fill in the blanks here. She goes, I got to be honest. I don't know how your wife did that. She is one bad blank. That was an expert medical opinion from the ER doctor. It is true. My wife is a bad blank. In the hospital, they had to straighten her arm because, again, her arm was dislocated. And so they put some drugs into her, sent me out of the room, and she screamed so loud. It's the most traumatizing sound I've ever heard in my life. Get her arm back in place. The doctor comes out and says, I know she was screaming. They always do that, but she's on so many drugs, she won't remember that ever happened. She might not, but I will never forget it. So they end up bandaging her up, tell us she might have surgery on her knee. She might have surgery on her wrist. We don't know for sure. But again, because it was Saturday, we weren't going to find out until Monday or Tuesday. So, what day of the week it is now. Monday, she ends up meeting with a doctor, and we had a follow-up Tuesday morning. And the Tuesday morning was supposed to be the scheduling. We knew for sure at this point she's going to have surgery on her wrist, but we didn't know when. We thought it was going to be sometime the next week. So we go in, 7 a.m. Tuesday morning, and within 10 minutes of the doctor looking at her x-rays says, this is more difficult than we had thought. We need to do surgery today. So brought her in for surgery at 2:00, and she was in surgery probably till 4. Doctor comes out, and he has been a surgeon. He's an excellent surgeon. We were really impressed with him. He's been doing this for 20 years, and he goes, maybe one other time I've seen a wrist worse than hers. So when we opened her up, we discovered there was 8 breaks, 3 complete breaks. And so I had to reattach everything. In fact, she still has one bone in the side of her wrist that's just going to be floating there forever. He did conclude he didn't think she needed surgery on her knee, so that was good. But all this to say, I ended up not going to Green Bay because I ended up being here to watch my wife and be the caretaker of my wife. But to be honest, from the moment I found out about this, people have been reaching out, sending flowers. Our entire house, it looks like we're a florist at this point. So if you were thinking about sending us flowers, thank you for the thought. You don't need to send us any flowers. We have an entire refrigerator full of food. Thank you, everyone that's brought food. Somebody came over and gave Di 6 books to read because now Di is pretty much, she's not allowed to drive for 6 to 8 weeks. The doctor said she probably can't work for probably the next 3 weeks. So she's very much on the DL. Takes something like this to actually slow that woman down. But I do want to say all the text messages, phone calls. I even had a pastor friend of mine wanted to create an account to raise money for all of Di's doctor bills. All of these things. I mean, people have been incredibly loving and amazing, specifically you, Venture Church, everybody so concerned. All of Di's friends in the church were ready to, hey, in fact, her best friends were saying, go to Green Bay, Brandon. We got Di. My husband, Gilt, was not going to let that happen. So no way. But anyways, surgery was successful. Di is going to get better. It's going to be a little bit of a rough recovery road, but she's going to be okay. I do want to just say thank you again for all the love and prayers and concerns that you've shown for my wife. It does mean a lot. And the ironic thing for Di is all of you that know her know that if you had an accident, you were wounded, she is not only the first person that you would call, but would be the first person there to help you. So it's interesting seeing everything turn around on the other side for her, because she's basically spent 30 years of her ministry loving on people that are hurting, going through things. And now for her to receive that on her side, it's been a blessing for our families. So thank you. And shout out to our Biblical Preaching 1 class at Northwest University. So Di and I teach this class together. We've been doing it for the last 5 years. I wasn't supposed to start teaching until October. So Di was covering all the September classes, but again, she couldn't be there. So I went in and taught the class on Tuesday, and I had finished the lecture and I was answering questions. And one of the students, Shannon, raised her hand and she said, Dr. Beals, can we spend the last 5 minutes of class just praying for your wife? And of course I said yes. And then the students, these Bible college students at Northwest University, took the last 5 minutes of class and prayed for Di. It meant a lot. So yeah, it's been a crazy, unexpected turn of events this week. So we're learning things like out-of-pocket maximums when it comes to your medical insurance. Not super awesome, but you figure those things out. But again, thank you guys. You'll probably start seeing Di on Sundays around the office, probably the beginning of October. But all that to say, this has been Pastors Unfiltered. This is about as unfiltered as you can get, hearing about a hiking accident. By the way, if you're wondering, this is a great example of why I don't hike. One of the many. Thank you for listening. If you like our episodes, please give us a 5-star review. Please like, subscribe, share with your friends. We do really appreciate when you give us a review. Want to thank Anderson Lawn Care as our primary sponsor. We are starting season 4. We are interviewing for sponsors for our upcoming season. Those will be announced and begin the beginning of October. So if you're interested in sponsoring Pastors Unfiltered, you can reach out to Pastor Tony or I on one of our social medias, and we would love to talk to you about what that means. Thanks, guys. Never forget, Jesus is the hope of the world. Let's make him famous.
Raiders roll.